What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and this is the Spire of Stars for Dummies, the complete raid guide that is going to showcase everything. Every encounter, every secret chest, every tip, every trick, everything you're going to need to know to beat this new Raid Lair. Now, I have done video guides on the first and second encounter. If you've seen one or both of those, you can always skip them by checking the description down below. There's timestamps indicating each encounter, each secret chest, and all of that stuff. Now guys, before we begin, obviously putting together this guide took a massive amount of work. If you find it helpful, please remember to support the video by liking and especially sharing. It really helps me out, and we can't let the Fortnite 1 kill equals 1 removal of clothing videos win. And so guys, let's get started here with the very first encounter of the Spire of Stars. This encounter is really a glorified game of hot potato. There's going to be an orb that spawns in the very center of this arena, and then it'll disappear, it'll blow up actually, and another one will spawn, and another one will spawn. They will constantly spawn. Now you'll also notice that very near where these orbs spawn, there is a giant cauldron essentially, and on top of this cauldron is a glowing purple cauldron, you could say. Now this glowing purple cauldron is going to be the objective that you have to hit with the orb. However, if the orb is not charged, it will just bounce off. So how do you charge it? Well, there are 4 pillars located around this arena. These pillars have a white wisping flame coming out of the top. Now, if you enter into this wisp, you will get a new debuff, Engulfed, and it will give you a time. Once this time reaches 0, you will instantly die. How to avoid this is that you have to go into the engulfed wisping flame with the orb. This will charge the orb, and then you're able to throw the orb at the cauldron in the center of the map, and that will trigger this encounter for real. Once you hit that cauldron, I think 3 or 4 times in total, you're going to advance to the next encounter. So what you need to do is to spread out your team. Have one person assigned to each of the 4 different platforms. Now the other 2 people are really flex slots. They're in charge of killing adds, because there will be a lot of enemies that spawn during this encounter. And so therefore, roaming supers and heavies like rocket launchers or even like shotguns that can deal with low level adds pretty darn efficiently are very, very effective here. So, you assign your team to their locations around the map. One person covering each pillar, one flex person in the back to help with adds, and one in the front to help with adds. And then someone picks up the orb, runs over to their pillar, wherever one you want to start at, goes into the wisp, gets the greed debuff, which is what happens when you travel into the engulfed wisp with an orb, and then they throw that orb at the center cauldron, and again, this encounter is really going to kick into high gear. Now, with that greed debuff that you do get for holding an empowered orb, if it reaches 10 times, you're going to instantly die. So you need to pass it before that happens. Now again, once this whole event is triggered, another orb is going to spawn, pass it to whoever, like wherever you want to start, that person jumps on the pillar, but now you'll notice that the cauldron is covered up by a shield. You have to pass to several different pillars all around in a row in order for the shield to go down and for you to have another opportunity to hit that cauldron with the charged orb. So instead of tossing it into the cauldron, you stand on your pillar with the charged orb until it rises and rotates to a standstill. Then you simply pass it to the next teammate. They catch the orb, they stand on their pillar until it rises to a standstill. They pass to the next person. They do the same, rises, then you pass to the next person, and you just keep passing it around clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever rotation you feel comfortable with. Once you pass it to enough teammates in a row, the shield covering the cauldron will dissipate, and then you can throw the charged orb directly at the cauldron again. That's going to trigger a new wave of adds to spawn. Slightly harder enemies will spawn as well. You keep doing it, like you keep passing it around. You get another opportunity to toss it in the middle cauldron. You take that, more enemies spawn, do it again, toss it in, and you're done. So all there really is to it is tossing it around from person to person until the shield goes down, and when you have the opportunity, tossing the charged orb at the middle cauldron. Once you do this enough times, again, you'll win this encounter. The only other mechanic you need to keep aware of is the flames. Near each of the pillars, there's going to be a spire of blue flame, and when you're standing on this pillar, the spire is going to grow. Now, importantly, if no one has charged that pillar in a while, that spire is going to turn red. And if it's red for long enough, your entire team will just die instantly. So when you see a red spire reaching into the sky, that means that the pillar adjacent to it needs someone on it. So get the orb to that person as quickly as possible so they can hop on that pillar. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you go on a pillar with that orb, the red flame is going to disappear. You've avoided that death mechanic. So that just means that you need to speed up with your passing. You can't take too long. And so, once you've beaten this encounter, there's going to be a reward chest that spawns where the orbs were spawning, and then just kind of behind that, there's doors that have opened up to allow you to the next encounter. Now, this next encounter, it looks like a jumping puzzle, but it's actually where you're going to get 2 secret chests, including an encounter chest, where you can get raid loot and armor and so on. So what you need to do for this is to get an empowered orb. But if you look around, there's no orbs anywhere to be seen. You have to trigger it to spawn. So what you want to do is head off to the right and look at this glowing rectangle that you can see me look at here. It has 8 different lights that are flashing on it. If you shoot this rectangle, then it's going to trigger an orb to spawn into an engulfed wisp, as you can see. So this is really how you trigger one of the 2 secret chests. You have this empowered orb, and you need to pass it from teammate to teammate to avoid dying from the greed mechanic. Remember, once you get past 10 greed, it's all over. So, you take this orb, and once your guy gets high greed with the orb, he passes it to another teammate. When that teammate gets high greed, he passes it to another teammate. And while you're doing that, you're also making your way through this jumping puzzle. Now, this area mostly just consists of rotating fans that you have to jump on from one to another and avoid getting pulled under this electrocution area. As long as you do that, you're pretty much good, and also you're mainly going up in this encounter, remember that. Now, once you jump a few fan blades, you're going to find a special room. There's a few of these rooms, and these are checkpoint rooms. Located within these rooms are special glowing sockets. What you need to do is to throw a charged orb at these sockets, as you can see me do in the background gameplay. This is going to trigger a checkpoint. It's also going to trigger the wisp to spawn down below it, and so a lot of players are going to get engulfed nearby if they are nearby, and it's also going to trigger more orbs to spawn constantly. So at this point, even if you die or if you lose the orb or if you toss it off an edge, you can always go back to these checkpoint rooms in order to get another orb, charge it with the engulfed mechanic, get greed, start hot potatoing it to the next checkpoint room. That is really this encounter to how to get one of the 2 chests, is just bring an empowered orb all the way to the end, activating these different checkpoint rooms. Now, also located in these checkpoint rooms are levers that you need to pull to activate bridges and so on to just complete the normal jumping puzzle, to complete the route, essentially. So make your way through the encounter as you see me do in the background gameplay. And once you get to the second checkpoint room and trigger the socket and all of that stuff, you then have a chance to get another secret chest. Now, the second secret chest is kind of in its own thing. You don't need to bring an orb to it or anything, so you can leave the orb and just go off exactly where you see me go to get this second secret chest, which really just consists of you heading up as high as possible on this next spire. This is a potential exotic chest, as you can see. So again, once you've gotten this detour chest, head back to the checkpoint room, grab an empowered orb, toss it back and forth, and keep making your way through this encounter. There's going to be one more checkpoint room, and then it's just a race to the finish, and you're going to see a very large structure and door that you make your way into and head to the left. And you're going to see one of those sockets on the wall. You toss the orb into this socket and it's going to open a secret door off to the left, head in it, and there you go. An encounter chest is all yours. As you can see, I got raid armor. This is not your normal exotic chest. Alright, now moving on from there, we have the next big encounter located at the Celestial Observatory. To get to this encounter, you're going to enter this strange looking room with nothing happening in it. You simply have to shoot those rectangles that you actually kind of shot before to trigger the orb to spawn. They're located all around in a circle, this middle spire. Once you do, it's going to open up and drag you to the next encounter. This next encounter is extremely mechanics focused. You really need to know what you're doing. You need to have great communication with your team. No one can be silent. Everyone needs a mic, to be perfectly honest. But really remember what happens in this encounter, because a lot of the same principles and a lot of the same mechanics are going to exist in the final boss encounter. There are 4 special plates located in this arena, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. You'll know you found the right plate when you stand on it and it glows orange. Now when all 4 plates have someone standing on them, it's going to build an orange spire into space in the very center of the arena. Now, as soon as that spire is built, you're going to see that 3 people in your team randomly are going to get a buff. Superior Retainer may appear on the bottom left corner of your screen. This is going to allow you to utilize the spire because someone with Superior Retainer goes into the spire while it's being held open by 4 people still standing on the plates, and they're going to get raised into the space area. And they're going to see what you're seeing in the background gameplay. 3 different ships with one of them highlighted with a certain symbol denoting it. Now, if you try to go into the spire without Superior Retainer, you'll instantly die once you reach the top. So someone with that buff needs to go in. So the goal for this encounter is to kill all of the 3 ships that you saw while in space by targeting the correct ones with the correct symbols. Now you do this by holding open the right plates denoted by these symbols and charging the right weapons. Sounds complicated, but you need to find the 3 different symbols located around this arena. There's one right here. This is denoted as square, not because of the symbol on the inside, but because the outside border is a square. The same thing for this middle symbol. It's called circle. The outside border is a circle. And lastly, we have triangle for the same reason. Look at the outside border rather than the symbol in the middle. If you want to come up with names based on the symbols, do whatever you want as long as your team is on the same page. So, you're going to build the spire to space. One person with the buff is going to go through and scout out which ship to target. He's going to see, let's say, that square is highlighted. At this point, he's going to shout out to your team, alright, it's square. Then, a orb is going to spawn. someone on your team needs to grab this orb and then go to the center of the map and empower it, because at the very center of the map there's 3 different locations where the wisp that empowers, or I should say engulfs you, will spawn. So there's one in the center, one off to the right, and one off to the left. They're basically directly forward of the symbols on the ground. So again, someone grabs this orb that is spawned, then they go to the center, and one of those 3 areas will randomly have the engulfed wisp. They go over it to get greed and charge the orb. Then they need to travel to the correct symbol. In this case, square is on the left. So you count down with your team. All right, guys, 3, 2, 1, and then there has to be a teammate on all of those symbols. So the person with the charged orb needs to be on square. That's where he's going to be throwing it in. That's where he's targeting the ship. The other 2 platforms still need to be activated. The other 2 symbols still need to be stood on, but there's no orbs involved there. So everyone stands on the symbols at the same time, and then the doors in front of you are going to open. And the outlet that you've already shot at in the previous encounter is going to be there. You throw the charged orb at that outlet. That is going to charge a certain weapon. So you'll see in the bottom corner of your screen, laser beams armed or missiles armed or whatever, and that means you've done this correctly. Then you move back as a team and get ready to send someone into space again. Because after you've armed the weapon, a new orb will spawn. Someone with the buff, remember someone with superior retainer, needs to grab this orb, go and empower it again. So go and get the greed bonus from the middle again, and then they jump into Spire and go to space. Once they're in space, they simply throw the empowered orb at the highlighted ship and destroy it. Now, the other mechanic that you need to be aware of is that, yet again, there will be the glowing spires of blue flame, and these will start to grow red if you've taken too long to get that engulfed wisp and get rid of it. Essentially, you get rid of it by throwing the engulfed orb at either the weapon arming it or throw it at the ship in space. So if you're taking too long to do those things, they'll glow red and they can wipe your entire team. That's really all there is to it in terms of mechanics. Going to space to scout out which ship you need to target, then getting an empowered orb, throwing it at the correct symbol, and then going to space again and throwing another empowered orb at the correct ship. And you do this 3 times and you'll win this encounter. But, you know, easier said than done. The most difficult thing in this encounter is everyone standing on the correct plates or symbols at the same time while staying alive, because there is quite a lot of ads. So the best way to do that is, firstly, for when you're going to space and when you're jumping on the symbols, make sure to communicate with your team when that is happening and all do it at the same time. If you're standing on your plate, which is very exposed for a long period of time, you're going to be just destroyed by ads. So you need to stand back. Everyone needs to get ready. And then someone with the bonus is going to say, okay, I'm going to space, I'm going to space. They're going to grab the empowered orb and say, okay, everyone get on. Then everyone jumps on their plates because it activates the spire very, very quickly. The person goes into space, and as soon as they go into space, as soon as you see their name disappear, you can hop off your plate. That's going to limit the amount of time that you're on your plate getting shot at by ads. Same exact thing works for the symbols. The biggest mistake groups are going to make is trying to hold down these symbols by themselves when they're getting destroyed by ads. No, stay back until the person, whoever wants to throw the orb. Remember, you don't need to be superior retainer to throw the orb and charge the weapon. You only need superior retainer to go to space. Keep that in mind as well. But again, the person who's charging the orb is going to go and do that, and they're going to communicate to the team, all right guys, 3, 2, 1, everyone on, and then everyone gets on the symbols, and the doors open very quickly, they throw it, and everyone gets back off. When you're on those symbols or plates for too long, if you're trying to stay on them while you're being attacked, while people are charging orbs and so on, you're going to die. So you want to hop on, get the objectives done, and hop off very fast. One of the best things to use here is Night Stalker Hunters. Their tether, especially with Orpheus rigs that you can get your super back super easily with because there's so many ads, you can simply tether a symbol, and all the enemies are not going to be shooting at you. They're going to be tethered and slowly walking away, whatever. And it gives you a lot of respite to hop on that symbol unopposed. Also, there's really no damage phase or anything like that, so getting rid of your Sleeper or Darcy or something like that and putting on a good old shotgun is a really good idea as well. Now, if you do have one or more Night Stalkers, you can really get advantages from the amount of orbs that are generated, and the other classes, anyone with a roaming super, like Hammer Titans or so on, is going to be fantastic for just clearing out the massive amount of adds that spawn and give you the ability to complete your mechanics. Now, moving on from there, we have the final raid encounter with the boss fight. So, the first thing that's going to happen is that a bunch of adds are going to spawn. Simply limit the numbers of these adds as much as possible. Definitely do focus on the yellow health Centurions that do spawn. There's one that spawns on the left, one on the right, and I think one in the middle, and those guys can pack a wallop. So if you leave them alive, they can cause problems. After a while of simply killing adds, the boss is going to, well, the word for it is he's going to get constipated, or at least that's what everyone's calling it. He's going to bend down and start to glow purple, and then every single member of your fire team is going to get engulfed. And remember, if the timer reaches 0, you're going to instantly die. Now, after that, one single orb is going to spawn and shoot at kind of a random plate, either off to the left or the right. So, basically do what you see my team doing in the background. Someone grabs that orb, and once you do, again, you're going to get rid of your engulfed. Then they have to pass it to the next person, and the next person, and the next person. If you line up in a line, as you can see us here, and, you know, if it's off to the right, the person on the rightermost grabs that orb, throws it to the next person, they go all the way to the left. Then that last person, once everyone has gotten a chance to get that orb and pass it, that last person who is passed to is going to then throw it at the boss himself and trigger the next section of this engagement. So again, you're all going to get engulfed. You all have to pass around that orb to get rid of your engulfed. Once everyone's done that, you throw that engulfed orb at the boss. Then he's going to basically have the same mechanics that you just did. There's just 2 of everything. So you still have to go to space, you still have to kill ships, you still have to arm weapons, but now there's going to be 2 ships you have to kill, there's going to be 2 orbs that spawn, 2 symbols that are shown, and 2 weapons you need to arm. So one person with superior retainer is going to need to go to space to scout out the right symbols. So you communicate with your team, you say, all right, everyone hop on in 3, 2, 1, hop on quickly. If you're a hunter or if you're a titan with barricade, stuff like invisibility, barricade, etc. is going to help you stay on those plates and avoid being shot at. The difference here is that the boss may also shoot at you, which is going to cause a flaming ground effect. Now, if this happens on your plate, you can still stand on your plate on like the very edges. Like, I would experiment with how far you can get away from your plate, and you'd be surprised. It looks like you're kind of off the plate, but you're still triggering it. This is going to allow you to stand at the very edge and avoid those flames if that happens. Quick tip for you guys. Anyways, you stand on those plates, send a person with superior retainer to space. They see the 2 symbols. Let's say they call out square and circle. Then 2 orbs are going to spawn. Now, the best way to do this is to have your team assigned to a certain symbol, because remember, people with superior retainer are just going to space. That's the only thing that buff is for. Anyone else can charge those orbs and throw it to arm those weapons. So if you have the 2 people holding open the left plates in charge of the left symbol, the 2 flex people in the middle in charge of the middle symbol, and then the 2 people off to the right holding the right plates in charge of the right symbol, that's going to be a great way to go. And then if you're in charge of a certain plate, like if you're on the left side and you're in charge of the left symbol, which is square, and someone in space calls out, okay, square and circle, like the example is, then it's your responsibility, you or your teammates' responsibility on that left side to grab an orb, to go and empower it in the middle. You have to do that. Then to stand on your plate with the symbol, in this case square, and throw it in to charge the weapons. So again, it's the same thing you just did. It's just 2 things happening at once. So again, the best way to do this is to get 2 people to grab the orbs on their respective plates, like go and charge them, get them empowered, get the greed, and then say, all right guys, everyone get ready to hop on your symbols. 3, 2, 1, hop on very quickly, throw those orbs, arm the 2 weapons, and hop back off. Again, you really want to limit your exposure, just like I talked about last time. If you're trying to hold open those symbols for a long period of time, just waiting for your guys to get the orbs and charge them, you're going to die. There's even more ads than there was. And just like the previous section, stuff like tether that will stop those ads from attacking you can be quite useful in this section. In any event, once you've charged the weapons, you're then going to retreat back a little bit, kind of gain your footing again, and 2 people with superior retainer are going to volunteer to go to space and to blow up the 2 ships because of the 2 weapons that have been armed. So you have to be able to call out, hey, I'm superior, I'm on the first left plate, like I'm on L1, someone take my plate. And then someone from the flex slot in the middle needs to take your plate potentially. But 4 people need to be holding open the plates, then 2 people need to grab orbs. They go and charge those orbs in the middle. There's going to be 2 different engulfed flames that are active, so both of them get that bonus. Then when the spire is built, they jump in the spire and go to space. And just like last time, you throw it at the ships. But make sure to call out which ship you're throwing it at. It's easiest just the first person up just goes, all right, left ship, I'm throwing it left ship. They throw it at whatever is on the leftmost. The other person throws it on whatever is the rightmost. And additionally, remember, you have actually quite a lot of time when you're in space. You have a lot of time to line up your target. Don't panic and throw at the same ship. That's going to be pretty problematic. If you do, or if you miss, very importantly, there's actually a decent amount of time before the next step happens. So if you only get 1 person into space, or if someone dies, or you both throw at the same ship, or something like that, there's a decent amount of time you have to get another orb, because orbs will continually spawn until you've killed both the ships. Get another orb, charge that orb, and send that last person into space to blow up that remaining ship. It's really not too hard to do, so if you miss a ship or something like that, don't panic, or if someone dies, don't panic. You will have time to get another crack at it. Now, once the 2 ships are destroyed, you're going to enter the DPS phase. Yes, you will have to have weaponry and supers capable of actually damaging the boss. So what's going to happen is that, well, firstly, a bunch of ads are going to spawn. You simply take out as many ads as you can, and then 1 orb will spawn. Someone needs to collect this orb and quickly go and empower it. Go and get the engulfed flame at the center. This is going to trigger a timer, and another orb is going to spawn eventually. If you don't engulf right away, like if you just leave that orb or you pick up the orb and just wait around, then the spires will glow red and you'll die. So make sure to, as soon as that orb spawns, go into the engulfed flame. Then you're basically going to have to play hot potato. You're going to have to wait quite a while until the other orb spawns, and then there's going to be another orb that spawns, and then all 3 of these empowered orbs need to be used for something. So you don't have enough time to just wait around with an empowered orb. Your greed will build up to 10 and you will die. So you need to have teammates nearby if you have an orb with greed, and toss it to the next person at around 8 or 9. Then that person waits a bit and tosses it to another teammate when they're high, and then that last teammate can either, toss it into the final area, or they can toss it back to the original person or whatever. You need to communicate with your team and pass those orbs around so that you don't die of greed. Now you can, as a team member, see who doesn't have greed. The people with greed are going to be glowing purple. The people not glowing purple at all have no greed. The no greed people are obviously the people you need to pass to. If you toss it at someone who is purple, there's a good chance they have high greed and they could die pretty quickly, so keep that in mind. So after passing it around, 3 orbs are eventually going to spawn. Once all 3 are empowered, then the boss is going to hold up the robot callus. Once he does that, that's kind of your cue. Get in a position to damage the boss. So the back 2 rooms, as you can see us going, are the places you want to go. And as soon as the robot callus raises his hand and a purple glow starts to come out of his hand, you throw the orbs at that purple glow. There's a lot of aim assist involved. Like if you throw it kind of to the side, it'll actually take that orb and track it over and make you hit it. So it's pretty easy to hit. The problem here is throwing it too early. If you throw those orbs at the robot Callus before you see that purple glow, it's just going to bounce off. And those 3 orbs have to hit at pretty much the same time, so you can't stagger them. Now, once all 3 orbs hit that purple glow, then the boss's shield is going to go down and you're going to have a damage phase. So split your team up 3 and 3, 3 people in the left back room, 3 people in the right back room, and splitting your team up is actually going to make it so you have a better chance at his crit, because the boss's crit is actually his jetpack on his back. So he's going to be looking at one side, which means the other side has a free reign on his crit spot. Now, he is going to shoot missiles at you, tracking missiles. So you want to be far enough back in these rooms that you can hit his crit. You can just barely hit his crit underneath the doorway, and that doorway is also going to block incoming missiles. So keep that in mind. But also, there's a lot of ads that spawn as well in these back rooms. So you will, every once in a while, have to turn around and deal with these ads. If you're a tether hunter, and you're using your tethers at the ton of ads like I was, you can use your tether in these rooms to get the ads off of you. And that's because tether doesn't seem to affect this boss at all. What does affect this boss in terms of increased DPS is Melting Point from Sunbreaker Titans. In fact, speaking of, Sunbreaker Titans are absolutely, I would say, essential for this end encounter. Your hammers, especially when they split apart with the proper tree, are going to do phenomenal damage. Like, you really want to have as many hammer titans as you can, and they are going to be able to inflict phenomenal DPS on the boss. And if you are a hammer titan, remember, just one hammer at the ads in front of you, one hammer at the ads coming at the other door, and then the rest on the boss is probably an intelligent way to go. If you focus everything on the boss and you're swarmed by ads, that can be problematic. So it just takes one hammer at 2 sections of ads to keep those under control. So you damage him as much as possible. You know, sleepers were great. Rockets are good if you can cheat that DPS by having a rally barricade and just go up and down and shoot all of your rockets at once. Again, hammers are absolutely phenomenal. Get one person who is a hammer to do the shoulder strike melting point thing on the boss as soon as his shield goes down to get you increased DPS. That's very important. And you need to be able to out damage 1/3 of his health, because there's only going to be 3 phases. So if you are less than 1/3, you probably means you need to level up in order to complete this encounter, or you need to do something differently, because again, you're not going to have more than 3 damage phases. He's going to get enraged and you're going to lose. Now, if you can manage to damage over 1/3 or 1/3 of his health, you're on the right track. You're simply going to do the exact same thing you already did. You know, send someone to space, they scout out the symbols, empower the orbs, get ready and go on the right symbols at the right time, throw the orbs at the right weapons to charge them, get back, sends 2 people into space with charged orbs to kill the 2 ships, and that's going to trigger another damage phase. So that's going to trigger, you know, the orbs spawning out. You're going to have to pass them around, and then eventually you're going to throw them at the glowing hand of Robot Callus, and that's going to trigger yet another damage phase. And you do that one more time, and then once you've destroyed all of his health, you're going to get a last stand mechanic. Now, for this mechanic, it's actually relatively easy. As soon as the boss's health reaches 0, he's going to toss out a bunch of orbs. All you need to do is pick up these orbs and throw it directly at him. You don't need to use heavy or super or anything else. All 6 of these orbs, if they all hit him, he's done. He's gonna die. The only catch is that each orb is coded to one person. So I cannot pick up an orb, throw it, and pick up another orb and throw that. Every single person has to throw one orb, which means all 6 people need to be alive when he's taken down, and all 6 people really need to communicate and grab those orbs before they disappear. So make sure, like, if you're at the front of the pack, don't grab the first one. Go to the middle orbs, right? Let the person in the back grab the orb in the back. You know what I mean? Like, don't be greedy with those orbs. Try to make sure that everyone has a chance to get them. Throw them at the boss. There it is. He's going to die, and you have officially completed the Spire of Stars Raid Lair. Guys, that is it for the Spire of Stars Raid Guide for Dummies. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. Again, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and sharing this video. It really does help. Now, if you want to support the channel in other ways, you can always check out the official merch linked in the description down below. If you want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.